economy was under the idiot king for 10 years.
I know, but he is like the idiot king in many ways, Carney is.
So it's actually happening. Canada is really turning its back against America, even though some argue that America turned its back on Canada, but Canadians, maybe not yourself and certainly not me, are actually getting very angry with America. I was at the grocery store the other day and I ran into this guy and we just started chatting about the price of stuff. And he went on to say, like complete strangers within like 3 minutes of meeting him, that he's selling some of his properties in America because literally doesn't like how America is treating Canada. That's something pretty crazy to say to a stranger that you just met. Also, I don't even know if that financially makes any sense, but that's how deep rooted the hatred for America is right now. And where is our country going? In what direction? If not America, where are we going to trade with? Where are we going to make our money from? Europe. 100%, like mostly from Europe. I don't agree that this is the best path forward. Mark Carney seems to think it is, and he's convinced a lot of people that this is the best idea. And unfortunately, we're stuck here twiddling our thumbs, whining about it. And until the day comes where we can actually make some change, I'm going to keep whining about it because that's what I feel is right. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. I just realized that I'm a professional whiner. Wino. No, not the ones who taste wine, but who professionally whine about things. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. Comment wino down below because why not? We got a few things to take a look at. And we're going to start off with the fact that Saskatchewan is saying, hey, China, we got to work together. Mark Carney doesn't want to play nice. So you have the Premier of Saskatchewan going, let's make a deal. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says Canada should remove tariffs on EVs from China. As Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe prepares to go to China next week, he said that he would like the federal government to drop its 100% tariffs on electric vehicles. Yes, let's remove the tariffs, which, by the way, I know a lot of people watching these videos are against EVs, are cheaply made, don't trust them. A lot of the anti-EV sentiments kind of came from the whole like mandating thing. If it was just a rollout of new technologically advanced vehicles that have like a 400 or 500 kilometer range and like aren't that good in the wintertime, people would have just naturally been like curious and like, oh cool, maybe I want to get this because it seems to have better tech, or maybe it just makes sense for individual people to get off of gas and more on electric. But the whole mandating of the EV sector really ruined it for a lot of people. But this is how bass-ackwards Canada really is. Canada, our Liberal government, is going, hey, we're all going to die unless we switch to EVs. So we're going to force people to switch to EVs. Now, the leading country with EVs is China. The biggest car manufacturer in the entire world is called BYD, and they sell cars for dirt cheap. The quality of them is questionable, but we're talking like instead of buying an entry-level EV here in Canada for $40,000 or $50,000, you could end up getting them for $25,000, $30,000. It's like pretty big savings. The average person would be that much more able to get a entry-level, brand new, luxurious electric vehicle. But Canada says, nope, we are, in desperate need to save the world, but not in that big of a hurry. So they put 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, which is supposed to be what is going to save this planet. But it's just weird. It's so contradictory, right? It's like, hey, we're sinking and we need life vests, but we're not going to get life vests because they're made in China. So we're just going to drown. I don't know. It's a weird, bizarre philosophy that Canada has. Anyways, let's continue, because this whole tit for tat thing going on with China, well, the EV tariffs is now hurting Canadians more than ever, not because of the lack of affordability of electric vehicles, but because of this right here. Most comments come as Chinese tariffs of nearly 76% remain in force on Canadian canola seed, a measure that has slashed the value of Canada's and Saskatchewan's most valuable crop by millions. Beijing's duty on canola seed was seen as a response to Canada's 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Canada justified its levies on Chinese EVs by arguing they protect planned investments at home. Yeah, freaking right. Herein lies the line that we all walk, he said. Most said to the United States. They said the United States is the top importer of Canadian canola, followed by China, and we are literally shooting ourselves in the foot, not because we're missing out on necessarily cheap EVs from China, but because now our farming industry is being decimated. So that's our liberal government. They hurt our farmers. They hurt our blue collars. They literally put up a bunch of red tape so nothing ever gets done while simultaneously making themselves a little bit richer. Huh. Who would have thought? Well, to now talk more about specifically Canada and America relations and the fact that it's not really heading in a positive direction, we got to take a look at this video because Canada is making strides, just not with America. They're making it with Europe. Ugh.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc ended his trip to Washington early, according to a Canadian official speaking to CBC News. He was supposed to be in Washington until at least Thursday. The sudden end to the trip comes after LeBlanc met with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick yesterday. The government official says the meeting was positive, but as these trade talks continue, Canada is looking to expand its trading relationships beyond the U.S. Industry Minister Melanie Joly joins me now from Berlin. Nice to see you, Minister. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure, JP.
So Dominic LeBlanc is the lead minister on the Canada-U.S. file, but you sit on the Cabinet Committee that manages this bilateral relationship as well. Where do things stand with the Americans? How close are we to a deal on these tariffs?
So I know this is a question that every single journalist across the country want to ask the government. But what I can tell you is we'll let the negotiating team do its work. And that's why Minister LeBlanc was in Washington this week. That's why also the Prime Minister had a constructive conversation also with the President yesterday. What I can tell you, though, is meanwhile, we are really targeting the most affected sectors, those that have been really under tariffs for too long, and those that a lot of people are extremely preoccupied, to say the least, because a lot of livelihoods are at stake. And my job in the context of this negotiation is to be able to work on the consequences of these trade tensions and to make sure that people in the steel, aluminum, auto sectors, copper, and lumber sectors also being taken care of.
I want to talk about steel in a second, but when this trade war first broke out, you were a proponent of what you called maximum pressure on the U.S. to make them pay. Now Canada is lifting some of these retaliatory tariffs, as you know. The government is actually alleviating some of the pressure on the U.S. Why is that the right approach right now?
Well, because I think the Prime Minister had a constructive conversation with the President, and in this context, I think it is important that we follow his lead. I think also that we have indeed a good positioning because I think of a lot of things we've done, including countermeasures. I think it was really effective at the time. I think also we need to make sure that meanwhile we not become completely over-reliant on the U.S. And that is why I'm in Germany right now, in Europe, as I'm working on making sure that we're helping businesses pivot and try to become closer to European businesses and also to European governments.
Speaking of the steel sector, they're not really happy with this government right now, as you probably...
So like the whole thing about Canada First was being more independent and not just less reliant on America, but it was supposed to be less reliant on other countries. But of course, we aren't seeing them stay true to that philosophy. It's not less reliant on other countries. It's only less reliant on America. It's very, very bizarre. And there's some... This is going to have to blow up in Canada's face at one point or another. There is no way that Canada can literally just walk away from America in the way that the Liberals are doing right now.
know, the Canadian Steel Producers Association is calling the decision to drop the retaliatory tariffs a disappointment. They say reciprocal tariffs protect Canadian industries and workers in this trade war, and that dropping them makes us weaker. What's your message to those who are feeling dejected by this move in the steel industry?
Well, I really think that we're keeping the counter tariffs that are linked to steel and to aluminum. And we're concentrating our efforts to fight for the very people that are in the steel sector, that are in the aluminum sector, that are in the auto sector, to make sure that we get to a better deal for them. Because I know I've heard their anxieties. I know that we need to do a lot of work to make sure that we're able to keep these steel plants operating and keeping the jobs. And that's why I was at Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie this summer. That's also why I was at Dofasco, so ArcelorMittal in Hamilton, a couple of weeks ago. And that's why also we came up with $1 billion plan to support the steel workers and the steel businesses.
The U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, is frustrated that Ottawa is reviewing the F-35 program, the American fighter jets. He says, it's a sticking point in these trade talks, that it might even threaten NORAD. You were just in Sweden to tour the Saab facility that makes a competitor, right, the Gripen E-jet. What's your preference? Should we go with the Swedes or stick with the Americans?
Well, this is a decision that, of course, will involve many of the different ministers involved, and of course will be ultimately taken by Prime Minister Carney. But the Minister of Defense and I have been closely working together, and also along with the Secretary of State to Defense Procurement, Stephen Fuhr. In the context of this work, indeed, I went to Saab because I think it was important to be able to have conversations as to what could be the industrial benefits for Canada in the context of this this decision, and also the Secretary of State to Defense Procurement is with Lockheed Martin in the U.S. this week. So we're doing the work, and I'm convinced that Canadians will be able to see that following a thorough review, we'll be taking the right decision.
When is that review coming? I know it was launched in March. It was supposed to be done sometime this summer, right? When is the government going to make a decision on what to do about the F-35?
So it's going to be in the coming weeks, and because, of course, the Defense Department is lead on this, the Minister of Defense will be able to answer more your question on it.
Did you like what you saw in Sweden?
Well, I think I met with people that are interested in cooperating more with Canada. I think that, I've been to Sweden, I've been to Finland, and now I'm in Germany. And clearly Europe knows also that they have been over-reliant on the U.S. as well. And in that context, they're very open to working with Canada on different aspects of our economy, maybe aerospace, maybe shipbuilding, particularly icebreakers, maybe also on subs, so therefore another part of shipbuilding, or maybe on critical minerals. So there's a lot to do. As the former foreign minister, what I can tell you is we are living in a much more dangerous world. I've said that many times, and there are lots of trade tensions. So lots of governments are trying to align not only their geopolitical partnerships, and definitely Canada is close to Europe, particularly because of NATO and particularly because of our defense procurement initiative that we joined, which is Rearm Europe, but also our businesses. And that's where I come in with this new job, which is the Minister of Industry, because we can talk about it and take many decisions on the diplomatic side, but fundamentally, in a world that is being reshaped by economic blocks, it is about our hardworking entrepreneurs and how they take decisions and how they can align their business decisions to make sure that ultimately we are going towards Europe. So that's my job, is to open the doors for them, to make sure that they have the right meetings, that they can ultimately invest and ultimately also create jobs.
So
I can't think of a world where Canada prospers more off of trading with European countries than with America. That doesn't make any sense to me. I could be dumb, maybe I'm overlooking things, uneducated, call it whatever you want, but I don't see how that's happening. And what's the goal here? To try and form a bit of a coalition with all of the anti-Trump governments around the world to stick it to America and to form their own, not BRICS, not NATO, but their own kind of subdivision of specifically Trump trade deals. Like, this isn't going to work out. Canada already went behind America's back with trying to get a deal with Mexico. And Mexico said, no. We don't want your snow pesos. No, thank you. No way, Jose. Go back to the other side of the wall, please, because Mexico didn't want to go behind America's back. People don't want to betray and backstab America, specifically under Trump, man. He's going to tariff you up the wazoo. And Canada is the little rat, the little cockroach that's looking to start something. Hey, psst, are you angry with Trump? Yeah, come with me. Come on. Come this way. Yeah, I think in the other country, I think those other people were, all those other people. Yeah, we've got this many people and they're all gonna stand up to him. Yeah, come on, let's go. It's freaking weird. When you start those types of rumors, when you start all that stuff, shit just blows up in your face. That's what's happening to Canada. That's what's going to happen to these other countries. And it's not going to be easy for us moving forward. So I just want to pass the question off to you. Maybe I'm overlooking things. Maybe this is going to be good for us in the long run, or maybe it's not. But where do you stand on this? Do you think that Canada is moving in the right direction, or are you a little bit terrified like me? Let me know down below where you guys stand. Now we got to take a look at actually America, what Americans are saying about Canada, because I think it's going to surprise you. Kevin O'Leary sits down with Fox Business, and it's taking me a little bit for a surprise. Let's just say that.
I'm fighting for the United States. Canada and Mexico take a lot of our business over the years, over 25, 30 years, especially during the Biden years. It's basically all coming back into the United States now. Well, hot as a pistol, and it's coming back in. Because of tariffs and the incentives we give, it's coming back. We are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. Exactly. He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. And we're going to have another call soon. Okay. Yeah, we had a very good call.
Team Trump making moves. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick meeting with Canada's trade minister in Washington to talk tariffs this week. This comes just days after Canada eased up on most of its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, a step Secretary Lutnick had pushed for, warning that there would be no real progress without that happening. Mr. Canadian,
yeah, it's really
Mr. Wonderful. You just represent all of Canada here.
Well, no, look, I do business in both countries. I've got American kids, but I do investments up in Alberta. And here's what happened. Carney is really good because he used the whole Trump elbows up strategy to win against a conservative who was 32% ahead of him. And then he said, look, Trump is the enemy, and I'm going to save us. And it worked. But he just missed it by 3 seats. He has a minority mandate. In a Canadian parliamentary system, you can't get anything done unless you have a majority mandate. So what I predict will happen is we'll get another election, and one of these guys, which are so close, are going to win a majority.
Who do you think will challenge him?
Well, he has to challenge the conservatives named Pierre Poilievre.
Okay.
So just for a little bit of context, because you are hearing this correctly, Kevin O'Leary is a little bit disappointed that Mark Carney did not get a majority government. Now, during the federal election and during the campaign, Mr. Wonderful seemed to be a little bit more on the side of Pierre Poilievre because he was up against Justin Trudeau, right? The idiot king. But when it comes to Mark Carney, you've got billionaires like Kevin O'Leary who like him because of the finance industry, the background. I don't get it. I personally don't really see the whole appeal to Mark Carney, but it's not just Kevin O'Leary. It's also a lot of oil executives in Canada. Believe it or not, a lot of the oil companies, in fact, not a lot, almost all the oil companies are like very happy so far with Mark Carney. I don't understand it because he's not really doing anything, but I guess he's making the rich richer. This is the dangers of Mark Carney, right?
So one of those two guys has to win a majority mandate because that's the only way you can actually execute policy. But right now, the pressure point is on softwood lumber. The rest of the stuff is CUSMA. That's the existing agreement. There are no tariffs. No tariffs out of Alberta oil. And if you took the Alberta oil out of the equation, there is no trade deficit with Canada. That is the cheapest oil America gets out of Alberta, and they have more nat gas than the entire United States. So that's a lot of power up there. But they got to solve for softwood lumber because that's the housing industry, and Trump knows it for housing. That's billions of dollars a month of softwood lumber now jammed up at 35% tariff. So that's why Carney dropped the retaliation, and now he's saying to Trump, look, elbows down, let's cut a deal. And that's what's going to happen. And that'll be good because a reciprocal tariff with Canada of 10-15% would be great. And it would be good for both sides. And I would be happy because I'm trying to do business in both places. But Carney's smart. He's going to figure that out. He's no longer using Trump as the adversary guy up in Canadian politics.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that's why he won. Polyev probably should have won. He won because he was the guy who could say, I'm against Trump more than the other guy. But so it's interesting. The Canadians are saying, well, look at Carney. He's capitulating on this right now. I don't think he's capitulating, actually. I think what he's realizing is that he's never held the cards. He's never had the leverage on this. Enough time has passed that he can actually deal with Trump according to the leverage he has and the leverage he doesn't have. And I think if he's smart, he'll actually he'll say, look, let's cut the best deal that we can, and he won't have to fight the battle with Polyev again. I mean, he's trying to solidify long-term leadership here. If he gets a good deal with the U.S., I think he sets himself up personally really well, and that's sort of how I read this situation.
Well, the key is if he gets a good deal, and he has that momentum, he should call an election, because the history of Canadian parliamentary politics is that if you don't win a majority, 12 to 18 months is the longest you're in power for without calling an election. So the minute he cuts a deal, let's say it's a 10% reciprocal, boom, call an election, solidify your majority mandate.
That's what I think he's actually
right.
We're kind of talking around the elephant in the room. What's the economy like in Canada? Take all this stuff.
So you've got Kevin O'Leary, who's predicting that Mark Carney is going to call an election in hopes of winning a majority government within 12 to 18 months. That's pretty wild.
But you got to remember, the economy was under the idiot king for 10 years.
I know, but he is like the idiot king in many ways. Carney is. He is. I mean,
not the same.
He's not globalists, and
Carney has executional skills Trudeau doesn't have.
He worked for Mike Bloomberg, so maybe.
Well, I know you may have a dim opinion of him.
No, I don't. I'm just saying that it seems like more of the same. And at some point, they're going to have to talk policy when Trump isn't the boogeyman anymore, and the center left policy.
The real answer between these two economies is no tariffs and merge the economies. Canada has all the raw materials the overall North American economy needs, and we got to get together to fight the Chinese. I don't know what we're talking about. It should be, the indigenous population of both the U.S. and Canada, there's no border for them. They can move anywhere they want, anytime, both ways. Let's check each other's people out, give a cross-border passport, merge the economies, standardize on the U.S. dollar even. Why not? Everything's priced in U.S. dollars in Canadian economies. And boom, let's go fight the Chinese.
Yeah, boom. Let's go fight the Chinese.
That's it.
Together.
Just solved the whole problem.
Well, you're
I'm on board with that. Preferably not under Carney, but I am absolutely on board with Canada and America having an economic merger, getting rid of the, so to speak, border, having a bit of an easier way with our passports for cross-border travel and for businesses, standardize U.S. dollar, get rid of our Canadian snow peso, bring in more American businesses, more American entrepreneurship into Canadian soil so that we can grow and we can expand joint military bases, the whole shebang. Man, do you understand how many flavors of barbecue potato chips we would have at the grocery store? I say this so often. I used to go to America quite a bit when I was in the military and stuff like that. And I'd go to the grocery store and I'd love it because you'd get Southern barbecue, Northern barbecue, Eastern barbecue, Western barbecue, deep Southern barbecue, mild barbecue, hot barbecue, all American barbecue, regular barbecue. Just as an example. And those are only barbecue flavors. There's a whole lot of other flavors. There's a whole lot of other products that are available in America that are not here, except ketchup chips. Seems like Canada really has a monopoly on that one, but that's a story for another day. Man, oh man, I like where that narrative is being pushed with Kevin O'Leary, that a economic merger between the two countries would be phenomenal because we are not each other's enemies. China and Russia are more bigger threats Russia militarily speaking, China, yeah, of course they got a big military presence, but more just their economy, right? The world is going to be standardized on one of two currencies, the US dollar or the yuan. And I would rather the US dollar, as would a lot of people. So take your pick which one you'd prefer, and then let's advocate for going in that direction. That's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, slap a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another one. Bye for now.